lie. Welcome to the Players Lounge. Yeah, when no other moment, man, it can't compare.
Welcome back, you fans from the Smoky Mountains. My name is Cal Beck. I'm honored to be here with Zack Moss on the post game. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yesterday, obviously, it was a good experience from a fan standpoint. Did we answer the questions that we had from last week?
I don't think questions were answered. I think, if anything, a lot more question marks have come up now with a lot of injuries that we're going to get into. But it was a good week to get that sour taste out of our mouths, and then go into the bye week, kind of just having some good things to just look at and watch and things of that nature and feel good about. So because you never want to go into a bye week on a loss, right? That stings twice as much. So I think mainly, it was really good just to go out there. Those guys played really, really good. They started fast. All the things that we kind of wanted to see: start fast, execute. Not so many penalties killing us and things of that nature. Because, like we said, good teams don't beat themselves, right? But they looked good overall, and I don't know if things were answered 100%, but it was a good win, and it was really good just to get that taste out of our mouth going into the bye week.
Well, and we were rolling on both sides of the ball. It was easy to watch as a fan, minus the injuries. I mean, It was unfortunate that the Illinois game went as long as it did, although the outcome was phenomenal. To hear by text and get updated that Richie went down on the second play of the game. And then by the time we tune in, we watch some other injuries happen. From what I can gather so far, not a lot of them are far-reaching injuries. They still need to be assessed, but their fingers are crossed on the side of several weeks versus several months to come back. So Richie and the rest, we wish you the best, obviously. And it's not beneficial, but it's a good thing to have that bye week coming up after those injuries, obviously, because you get more time to recover. Offense was an absolute joy to watch. Everything was going our way. We were 100% on third down, 8 for 8 at halftime on third down efficiency. And that pretty much spoke to the way the game went. We did not punt once. Defense got their jabs in. But offensively, last week we were discussing about Dampier's legs, the ability to stretch the field downfield, get some speed down. We obviously hit some of those targets yesterday.
Yeah, it was really good to see some of those passes downfield. Him and Merriweather still trying to get on the same page. He had an interception there. The ball kind of just floated on him, and I think he needed to put it a little bit more outside with some zip on it. But hopefully, because Merriweather's a really big target, man, I think he has the opportunity to be the guy that kind of helps that receiver room, cross over that river, if they say, because his frame, he's a big guy. So hopefully those two can get on the same page. But overall, the guys looked really good in the passing game. Dampier made some things happen. We can work on the targets and things of that nature, like I said, just from my point of view of things. But you can't be mad at the offense for how they went out and executed, right? It doesn't matter to the opponent. We all weren't super high on West Virginia as well. But at the end of the day, these guys didn't play down to the competition, which is a big thing as well, which deserves a lot of credit in itself. They didn't play down to those guys. They went out, they executed, they had over 500 yards total offense, and that was huge.
Huge all the way around. You're looking at our passing. We're 25 for 30, very efficient. We held them 6 of 13, under 50% of the passing. But their rushing game was the most effective part, because once they got behind the clock, they knew they weren't going to be able to toss the ball at us. You're looking at our sacks. We had one that was split between two players, so 0.5 sacks each. I was a little disappointed to see we weren't getting more pressure on the quarterback, but it wasn't needed. They were keeping the ball on the ground because they were going to be setting themselves up for some big hits. There was one play that Dampier had in the second quarter where he was rolling to his left, threw opposite his body momentum, and it was a money throw. Yeah, I mean, to see that skill set there, I was like, that's a gorgeous throw.
Yeah.
And it did answer some questions, I mean, for confidence, for me being a fan standpoint. But I'm just wondering if we're still getting our feet grounded in our playbook. We were exploring what's possible and how to get the ball in more people's hands. We had so many more explosive plays, or chunk plays as they're called today. which kept the momentum swinging in our favor, or totally on our side the entire game. They didn't have very many chunk plays. We sustained 9 play drives, 11 play drives. Like, we were marching down the field. It seemed like clock control was our biggest concern. We had them outclocked 34 minutes to 25. And with how much they kept the ball on the ground, that speaks volumes for our offense being efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And not playing behind the sticks, which has been kind of our calling card the last couple of weeks. Penalties, we seem to be efficient. We have 5 for 43 yards. They had 6 for 70. Frustration penalties are going to happen. Not that they were made out of frustration, but getting frustrated over those penalties, still shooting ourselves in the foot, but it didn't come at crucial times to stop drives.
Yeah. Yeah. The boys look good.
Defensive. Oh, yes, they did. They did look good. It's going to be easier for them to stop filling holes in film than to start nitpicking on the spit and polish and moving forward side. Defensively, we dominated. They kept the ball on the ground. They had 85 yards passing total, and our coverage seemed to be more in the pocket. We had more opportunities to show that downfield coverage. Snowden had a great play on a cover 2 switch where he was waiting to jump the route on this quick slant by number 1 where he hammered down. And that's evident that they're watching those films, and they were very prepared for this week from the coaching standpoint and film-wise. They were very prepared. The game plan seemed to be efficient and effective right out the gates.
Yeah. Yeah. They look really, really good. Sharp, executed. It's like they almost knew that they needed to start fast in every facet of the game, and they made sure they did that. This is the way you want to go into a bye week, with a lot of confidence, with a lot of things that now when you watch the film, like you said, it's a little different kind of a vibe versus last week's vibe of watching the film, and just kind of the way you go into practice. I think they got a lot of confidence back, because I think this is the team that we think they can be, right? Obviously, again, West Virginia isn't a super great opponent, but at the end of the day, when you put somebody on your schedule, right, you got to show up and go play. And these guys did that this week in a different stadium, right? It's a travel that they had to go ahead and take care of at the same time, and a lot of different things in different time zone. And they looked sharp. None of those different things mattered to those guys. They went out, coaches had them ready to go. You could tell they were challenged all week of coming out of that Texas Tech game to come into this game. Mm-hmm. Coach Wick talked about that a little bit, just the challenge of being prepared, kind of getting that bad taste out of their mouths, and, looking forward and doing the things they need to do to make sure they can show they are the team that we believe they can be. I loved to see Dampier kind of just being back in his normal self, right? Not, making bad decisions, having the time in the pocket. I'm still a little baffled on the ankle injury, just a little bit, just because of he still was the second leading rusher when it comes to attempts. And I'm just like, okay, where is Parker with, more than 9 carries, right? And Rogers had, I believe, 13 carries. So I'm just trying to see how are we still using Dampier so much a little bit, in a sense, because he wasn't really effective. Also, some of those are scrambles and things of that nature as well. They kind of get thrown in there, but still, just looking at that part of it, the guy, they were efficient. You can't be mad at it. Over 200 yards in the rushing game as well. The offensive line looked like the offensive line that we've been high on all year long. And that's good, because sometimes when you have a stinker of a game, things can fall over into the next week, right? It wouldn't have been such a surprise to see these guys get off to a slow start. It really wouldn't have been one of those. But I was super excited and super happy just to see them go out there, dominate, put up the amount of points they did. Defense side, obviously, we didn't get a lot of turnovers and things of that nature, but West Virginia played a style, whatever. You know what? Let's get out of here. Let's get home. Let's get some of these guys out of the injury bug. Just make sure no one's injured. Let's just get out of here before things get a little bit too ugly. So defense didn't have a lot to do, which is great. But we had injuries. And it seems like we've almost had an injury every week, which is not good at all. That's not trending very well for us. And it sucks to see some of these guys, like you said, we haven't learned, the extensive report on things yet for a lot of these guys. And, but hopefully it's not something where guys are missing for a year, maybe it's a couple of weeks or something like that, and we can get these guys back, because I think, we're going to be a team that's still in that hunt to go do some things that we really want to do, and we're going to need everybody.
Well, and with the bye week coming up, we've got 2 big games to prep for. Back in the pre-dial-up modem days when I played, and I got to tell the viewers, we discovered the age gap during our pre-show discussion, because Zach was having some internet problems, and I was like, well, you should go to dial-up, and he was stumped. Like, I didn't realize I'm speaking with somebody that is pre-dial-up generation. So I just aged myself and remembered that long gap. But the receiving was done by committee. There wasn't like a huge target. You had Ryan Davis, seven catches for 107 yards, as long as being 32. There were some explosive possibilities, chunk plays out there. The running back committee, or the running back attack, was by committee as well. But if you take out a Bird and Dampier's rushes, they had 16 total together. We had 47. So you have 31 carries that were spread out amongst everybody else. You mentioned Parker. I thought Parker was running hard. He seemed to be focused on improving himself and his impact on the game. He got frustrated when he hurt his wrist momentarily. We had to go to the sideline. You could tell that it was frustration or not his wrist, but maybe his shoulder. But I was glad to see him bounce back in. You had Rodgers, like you said, with 13 carries. I was happy to see that it could be done by committee, whereas last week we were talking about you've got to have a workhorse. Are we still in that situation? Is our workhorse going to be our quarterback just because of the nature of the playbook, or is it still a necessity to keep the defense honest when they're defending our run?
Yeah, I think it's best for us to be committee for sure. Like I said, I think, Parker and Rodgers, I've kind of been talking about three-headed monster, and then you throw in Dampier in there as well. I think obviously the way the playbook is structured for a guy like Dampier, right? A dual threat guy. Even when Fickling gets in, right, he's able to still give you that element of using his legs and things of that nature. I don't know how to look if you just have a guy who's more of a pure pocket passer. I think then you get back to your natural, Utah football workhorse running back type of a vibe. But right now, I think the main thing, our best thing, is we have so many different people we can beat you with, right? And we've been really effective with those guys, and guys showing up and doing their job at a high level. But for us, we've always talked about explosives, right? And this week, nothing changed outside of the explosives, right? The offense essentially was the same. Ran the ball up the middle. We got on the edges a little bit. We got different guys involved in the game plan. But the main thing was, we took shots, right? We called a lot of shots. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, RG3 was calling the game. And he sounded a little frustrated for a second, because he was like, we're calling so many shot plays. He's like, just do what you guys do, essentially, and that's run the ball. When you think of Utah football, you think of, two tight ends, things of that nature, heavy sets and running the ball up the middle and leaning on guys. But I thought I liked it because we knew that we were going to beat West Virginia, right? You could tell the way that everything was kind of called offensively, that we weren't worried about what they were going to do to our defense at all, right? And that allowed Beck to say, okay, I'm going to call a lot of these shots plays, because, like we said, if this team wants to go where they think they can go, they have to be able to make those shot plays. They have to be able to score within 10, 12 play drive. Like, those things have to happen. Like, it can't be 15, 16, 17, 18 play drives, because a lot of these teams are not going to allow you to do that. You're kind of out of that play of playing inferior teams in that sense of things. So it was really good just to see him really lean into that a lot and call these plays. And, Dampier did a really good job of putting some balls up there and giving guys opportunities to go ahead and make plays. And that's what we need. That's what we need. We need guys to continue to show up and make plays. And you can't make the plays, right, unless your offensive coordinator is allowing you to go make those plays. And I was really happy to see he had confidence in those guys. He had confidence in Dampier to continue to call him and knew that he would make the right decision for him.
I totally concur. Yesterday I saw it. Small victories can be taken away from it. The only thing that the weather rained on was West Virginia, and on the Spectator. I was looking forward to seeing those great, epic landscape shots above the stadium with the leaves changing. Yeah. This is the one Big 12 stadium I desire to go and see. To make this road trip. Fortunately, couldn't happen this year for me, but it was disappointing as a fan to watch that game and see nothing but gray overcast. But to visualize and witness, it was only raining on West Virginia's parade. I don't think the coaches had to make any tactical or playbook adjustments. It was follow the script. I think back to last week at Texas Tech, we did need to make playbook adjustments on the fly. And I was hoping that maybe that circumstance will continue to come up so we can learn to make those adjustments in the mid-game. Yesterday, they weren't needed. We didn't punt once. The rushing yards were minimal. Everything that we had on script was going according to plan. And it was just a matter of finishing the game and getting some people some playing time that we need to have developed, because that injury bug is going to become more prevalent as you get deeper into the season, unfortunately. But is it a victory? Absolutely it is. Do we take anything to move forward against Arizona State, which is going to be at home and be a high-stakes game, them beating Texas Tech last week? This could be another definitive game for us moving forward. This is a must-have. This is a must-have for at home, and we'll get into it in the 38 or the 48-hour rule later on. But there are some things to take away from this, but I'm weary of saying we're back and this is who we are. This isn't a fair test of our abilities, especially because there wasn't a lot of animosity for us to overcome.
Yeah. I won't say we're back. I won't say that. I think we can have that feeling, right? Versus what product we put on the field in 2 weeks versus Arizona State at home, right? That's the game where, even more than Texas Tech a little bit, because they just beat Tech, right? So if they were able to beat Tech, what does that say about us? Because we got handled in the back end of the game versus Tech. And the lucky thing is we've gotten both of these teams now at home. That's an advantage, right? And like we said, championship teams don't lose at home, right? So now, are you going to go 1-1? Are you going to split these games, or are you going to go 0-2? Because you go 0-2, you're pretty much done. And you talk about pressure, right? Like this is everything past pressure. I don't even know what word this can possibly be, because one, you have the injuries, right? Two, you have coming off a bye week and going into a huge game. That's hard. That's really, really, really hard to do. Is to come off of a bye week and go play a really big game, because you're just not in the flow of things, right? And our offense already has been starting a little bit slow when we've been playing back-to-back weeks and things of that nature. So it's going to be a lot of, that's why I said, I don't know if we had a lot of answers. I think more than anything, we got a lot more question marks in a sense, a little bit, of what we're really going to put out there when that week comes, because Arizona State is an explosive offense and they get the ball to their playmakers. Like, they don't waste time trying to, figure out and what you're going to do and things of that nature. Like, they go out and they attack, and they have some really, really good dudes on the offensive side of the ball.
And the way that the conference has played out the last couple of years, Arizona State has kind of assimilated us as their regional rival. Our games have been big the last couple of years, regardless of where it is. They're definitive games moving forward for each team. I have no doubt ASU will be up coming into Rice. But I'm glad you mentioned about the hard mental approach by having a bye week. I have two questions about that. But the first one is, you said that it's hard mentally for a player to keep that sense of urgency, I'll put it, coming out of a bye week into a big week. But
Yeah.
my belief in hindsight, since Whittingham's whole tenure and prior to that, Utah comes out very well prepared on the playbook side of things coming out of a bye week with that extra prep time. Our coaches seem to be able to take a little extra time to get us ready to open up the playbook more and exploit some opportunities in our opposing. So we may be witnessing yes, we are technically very well prepared, but can the players step up and keep that sense of urgency? That sense of urgency wasn't there on Fox noon game day at home, like you mentioned last week. You've got to be ready for those opportunities. Another opportunity coming up.
Yeah.
When you were playing, was bye week an opportunity for you to travel home?
No. I always stayed just because one, didn't have NIL, so plane tickets were a little hard to say, I'm going to spend $500-$600 to fly
And it's
home.
it's a huge flight for you getting back to Florida.
Yeah, it's 5 hours.
That's a big one.
5-hour
Now,
flight.
when I was playing pre-internet dial-up and pre-Netflix, I'll put it that way, pre-Netflix kids, especially because we didn't have a lot of local recruits, kids took it as an opportunity to go home. And we only got one bye week a season. We didn't get two. So kids would see that. I mean, they would try to schedule practice so that kids had an opportunity, especially home to California, would have a chance to go home, recharge themselves. And when we came back from bye week, it was almost like they're coming back from Thanksgiving or holiday break. They had this new sense of energy. It was a chance for them to relax, relate, and release whatever had been going on. That's why we liked our bye week later on in the schedule versus earlier. And McBride would always seem to schedule our bye week pre-Air Force, because back then Air Force ran a triple option and it would take extra prep time. But we would always prep for our rivals down south that same week when we were getting ready for Air Force. So we felt like we were getting extra prep time going into the biggest chunk of our season. That was the most important. But I have a feeling that a lot of these kids with NIL opportunities might be traveling home this week, might be taking the opportunity to find a way to step away from the game, find themselves recharged, and then come back on campus ready to attack ASU. ASU's got a lot to prove still. They still consider themselves an underdog, and there's no bigger statement than coming into Rice-Eccles and making another statement like Texas Tech did. If Arizona State seems successful this coming week, there is a possibility that we get moved to that noontime slot, again, 10 o'clock local, because it would be the best broadcasted game possible on across the country.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they do take care of their business that way, because it was a great turnout, and it would be awesome to have that atmosphere here again in Salt Lake. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Twice in 1 year, right? You can't beat that. But my whole thing is just this. I really want to see how these guys come out. Like, I know that we'll be prepared, right? Coach Whitten, those guys have done a great job year in, year out of having guys prepared, and they're there all day. Like, people don't understand, college coaches are in the facility all day. Like, right after the games, everything. Like, games where we had in the Pac-12, and when it's, you get out of there around like 11 midnight, game's over. These guys, GAs, are going back to the facility to go and cut up the film, watch some quick film, and get ready for tomorrow, which they'll have to be there in a few more hours, right? Some guys will sleep there. So these guys really put in a lot of time, and that's a testament of, their greatness as well. And coming off of bye week, I have no doubt that from playbook, schematics, things in that nature, things are going to be, really, really tightened, right? We probably won't see a lot of just blown coverages, not having a lot of time to prep. It's not like, NFL where we play a Sunday game and then turn around and have a Thursday night game, right? Like, these guys are going to have time to really, really prep this thing and get this thing really dressed up real nice. My thing is just the players, because like we talked about just a little bit with the NIL stuff, these guys have more access to different things than we did, right? And that's just being a few years ago. Like, for me, for us, it was playing Madden all day, right? Having a few more hours to ourselves and just having downtime, right? Like just getting off our feet and getting off our legs. But now, these kids are different. Like they have more time to do a little bit more things. They have more money to do a lot of different things. Like NFL guys would take bye weeks and go to Cancun, right? Not thinking that our guys are going to do something to that extreme, but they have the opportunity to go and just leave the state for a couple of days, maybe it's a day or two, whatever it may be, and just have a little bit more time. Versus, I really wouldn't care if it was you know, a Cal Poly or something like that that were coming off of or UCLA getting ready to go play off this bye week. But you're talking about a huge game, like even bigger than Texas Tech. Texas Tech was a big game because we wanted to see where we lined up on the measuring stick, right? Versus these different teams that spent so much money in different areas and having national hype and all that type of stuff as well. But this game, this is for the season, essentially. You know what I mean? Like this is conference play. You go 0-2 in conference play, man. It is hard to figure that out because now, I like having control of things I can control, right? And in football, you go 0-2, you're asking for a lot of help from a lot of different teams that you may not get that help, right? And that's one of the worst parts of being a player is, not taking care of your business, right? You know how coaches say, man, you lose these games, but you put it in the ref's hands. Like never put the game in the ref's hands. Like just go out, dominate them, do your job, and you don't have to worry about the refs making a call here or a call there that swings this thing, right? And it's the same thing I'm thinking about this is we don't want to be in an 0-2 spot because every week after that, it feels like it's a must win. It's a must win. It's a must win. It's a must win. And then when you have mistakes, which are going to happen, when you have adversity, which is always going to be there, then you're asking a lot on your leadership council, right? And you're asking a lot of different things that obviously we're not going to see on a day-to-day basis because we're not in the facility with these guys every day. But you'll see it on game day, right? Like I guess you'll see those different things on game day and how those things show up. So, from the coach's standpoint, playbooks and all that type of stuff, yeah, we'll be, really detailed and coaches will be ready to go. They'll have a great way they want to attack things. But at the end of the day, it's a player's game. The players still have to go and play. They still have to be in that physical, space where, don't go and sit down for a day or two. Like you gotta keep your body moving. You gotta keep doing something. You gotta keep getting treatment. You can't, say, I'm just going to be super lazy for these 2-3 days and just do absolutely nothing and, change everything you do, like stay in your routine, right? And then wrap things around that outside of your routine, right? And that's just my biggest thing. I just really, because this is a huge game, because then you're talking about that'll be week 6 or something like that. Week 6, you're not playing for anything, essentially a bowl game after that, because where you want to be is in that championship game. That's where you want to be. And you'll be playing for a bowl game more since.
That's it. That's the expectation of the program being where it's at. You mentioned must win. The Texas Tech game was a got to win. We've got to win this in order to establish our identity as a powerhouse program that is in control of their own destiny.
Yeah.
That's different than a must win situation where you must win to stay on the successful trajectory that the program is still on. So they sound the same, but Texas Tech and some other games where we've got to win this. We've got to not lose at home. We've got to establish we're a powerhouse to be reckoned and thought with. Now we're in that play from behind, must win situation. That identity has flipped back and forth over the last couple of years, mostly because of injury that we've tried to handle and get through. But Utah football has always been that program that has stayed hungry with something to prove. That I look back over the last several decades, very, very rarely have we been in the position, lucky enough to be in the position where we feel like we should run the table. I mean, we could run the table, but we're still on that precipice of do we expect to run the table? If that expectation ever comes about again, that's great. But we are playing behind the schedule now. You don't want to leave it up to a game that's happening in Texas at 3:00 on Saturday to determine your fate.
Yeah.
The bowl game situation has changed drastically in the last couple of years. Bowl games are not the celebratory experience that they once were.
Mm-mm.
If you're not in the playoff, you're moving forward. That bowl game's basically a alpha spring scrimmage
Yeah.
for the players that you expect to be starting the next spring in spring camp. You're getting kids that are on the bench with their red shirt and opportunity to play, to get in. Like, you are looking at development. It's not a swan song send off for a lot of seniors at that point, because looking at the general national approach, on average, players that expect to play at the next level are not going to play in the bowl game because it's come down to a money and a business investment with their body. So yeah, playing for a bowl game or a chance to eke into the conference championship, that's a big difference in motivation. And a lot of wind would be taken out of the sails if we go 0-2 at home to Texas Tech and ASU. And our focus from then is, I hope we get a bowl game.
Yeah.
Whereas the marker for success is that championship playoff and moving forward and playing in January, not in December. Well, I didn't talk much about the defense because no news was good news. They were running to the ball. They seemed to be covering well. I've noticed that the two-way player plays, a number of plays that they've played, isn't as big as most people have assumed. They showed a graphic yesterday on the news that said Snowden and Barton both have played 14 plays of offense total up to this point. You average that over the weeks. That's really not that much. But I'm wondering now, with more injuries impacting both sides of the ball, do we see less of those reps happen because they need to stay dedicated on one side?
Yeah, that's a good question. With the injuries that we had to key players that were doing really good things for us, I would assume that you want them to stay on their side of the ball a little bit more. That's the call I would make. But at the same time, now you're going to ask for more guys on the offensive side of the ball to really step up, and more so maybe take more of a onus of the offense of guys that are already on that side of the ball, which is going to be very interesting to see. And I think those are things that are going to get played out right on that week of the Arizona State week. And that's a hell of an opponent to try to test a lot of these different things out. And hopefully they, these guys through the weeks, they build up the confidence and they just continue to, Coach Witt, there's not a big drop off of, like NFL where, the bye week, you're not really doing anything really. It's taking care of your body as much as you can. Rest. Coach Witt is going to make sure you guys are rested, but these guys are still going to work. Like he talked about in the press conference about still missing tackles and still not being in great position on tackling and things of that nature. So you can best believe there will be tackling drills during this bye week, which is probably like the last thing you want to be doing is some tackling drills in a bye week when you're supposed to be taking off of, a lot of the contact or whatever. So, I think those guys from that standpoint will be ready to go in a lot of those different areas. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of questions. Just, okay, now we had this guy playing offense and he was a defensive guy and now he's hurt. And now who are we going to pull over here? And how are we going to pull more over here if we had to reach our hand over in this cookie jar? It's a lot of different moving parts where I'm just not super used to because, usually if you have an injury on defense, right, you go get a guy that you already recruited who's the backup, third string, whatever it may be. Now you're the starter for the defense, right? And you just have to go play, right? But we're doing a lot of flip-flopping on both sides of the ball in the sense of we're just asking a lot of guys to do a lot of different things, which is, and I can't even speak to it because outside of saying, yeah, it's really hard to do that. I've never played both sides of the ball at the same time in college, right? Like I can only imagine, just the mental aspect of it because you got to remember offensive plays, right? You got maybe 20
Mm-hmm.
plays as a guy that you come in on offense. You got to remember these 20 plays when they're called and, things of that nature. And then you got to go back on defense and, hear these calls and be in the right alignment and all these different things. I'm like, that's a lot. And then when you practice this stuff, right? Is it, okay, Tuesday is my day to go on offense and Wednesday is my day for defense. It's a lot of different stuff moving on and pieces just going nonstop for these guys, but they've handled it well. And the coaches are putting them in good spots to not overwhelm them, I think, which is why we haven't seen these dudes that come over on the other side of the ball, running the wrong route or, having bad timing and having MEs and things of that nature. So it's just a lot of different, moving parts for myself that I'm trying to think about. But, I think I can have some peace that, we have 2 weeks for a huge game. And then all that's going to come out is, how do these guys come out and perform? Are they going to come out with their hair on fire, right? Or are they going to be the team that allows the game to come to them?
Are we going to be on our toes or on our heels? Are we going to be aggressive and attack, or are we going to catch and wait and react, which hasn't proven very beneficial for us? You mentioned something that made me curious. When was the last time the all-time leading rusher in Utah history played defensive position? When was the last time you played defense?
Last time, I was junior in high school.
What position?
Linebacker.
Inside or outside?
Inside. But I could play both. So quick funny story. I played linebacker all the way up until my junior year in high school, and I played running back only one full year in high school, which is my senior year. Yeah. So I was
that not a choice or necessity?
I was a late bloomer in football. Like, I never really was like, especially being in South Florida, being in Miami, like, football is the mecca. Like, if you don't play football, that's kind of where you got a lot of like your confidence as a kid and just like,
right.
All that type of stuff. But I was a late bloomer. Like, I didn't really care about football that much. Like, I wasn't like, I had competitiveness in me, but it wasn't like, where I was trying to like outdo other kids and get like better. Like, I had friends that like 10, 11, 12 years old. Like, now, like how it is now with all these kids and they go into like trainers and the parents are paying for all this stuff. Like, I had friends and stuff like that doing that then. But for me, I didn't know anything about that. Like, all I did was just go to the park and go play basketball with my friends after school, just regular stuff. And I played Little League football and I just played linebacker. I just let them put me wherever they were going to put me. And in high school, I was like, okay, well, I played Little League football and I was a linebacker there. So I'm just assuming, go to high school, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not really thinking about like, college and scholarships and all that type of stuff. I'm just playing to play essentially. And it wasn't until 10th grade year where I got a little bit of a taste of running back in spring football. And I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Like, I've kind of like this. But we had a dude already. We had a guy at running back already. So I knew I wasn't going to play. So I played linebacker full time. 11th year came, the guy graduated and we had two dudes in the backfield again that it was their turn because they were the backups to the guy last year. And I would just, sprinkle in here and there just because of what the coaches saw in the spring of the 10th grade year. So I played like 75% linebacker, 25% running back my junior year, right? But I had just enough highlights and explosive plays, even things on kickoff return and punt return, as well as taking some touchdowns back, where it left me like, you know what? I think I really want to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get a scholarship or whatever at 5'10" to go play linebacker. Like, that's not going to really happen. Not the way, that I'm playing this. So I end up transferring out and I go to Hollandale where I I already had knew Huntley and Simpkins, but that's where we ended up all being able to play on the same high school team as the seniors. And that year was obviously my first full year playing running back. I didn't play any defense that year. It was strictly just running back. So yeah, that's the quick funny story about. A lot of people don't know. I was like, nah, I'm like, bro, I was a late bloomer, like probably a little too late almost.
So kids, let this be a lesson in growth mindset. Great athletes are not necessarily born, but it's what you do with it moving forward that defines your ability as an athlete. I'm in the same boat, just the opposite side. I played total offense my entire Little League career. The only reason why I played defense is being the fastest person in the state.
Yeah.
I could chase down anybody that would break free. And playing for the high school I did, that happened frequently. And then I got recruited as an athlete, and they didn't even know where they're going to put me. I didn't know I would be playing defensive back until summer training started. And I signed as an athlete. I knew I'd be a return specialist, but they were trying to figure out numbers dictated defensive side of the ball because they needed somebody to cover their all-star wide receivers that they had being seniors right then. They just needed practice fodder. I ended up a DB and absolutely loved it. Never would have thought that I would play on the other side of the ball, even through high school going in. But kids, let that be a lesson. And to anybody out there, great athletes are not born, they're made. And it starts with your mindset and your approach. I know you've got to go. You have a tumbling class to attend to. How's your somersault coming? Your somersault's good?
We need a lot more classes.
Tuck and roll. Well, it's always an absolute pleasure, sir. With a bye week next week, we might be a little bit before we get to chit chat, but good luck. Remember to tuck your chin. Good luck on the tumbling. And as always, go Utes.
Go Utes.
Thank you so much to everybody for listening today. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more UteNation podcasts and coverage.
Welcome to the players' lounge. Yeah, when all the moment, man, it can't compare.